To understand what comics are in and of themselves, I think is really important because we are in a moment where comics are very, very popular. Whether it's superheroes, which are now ubiquitous and everywhere in comics and in film, online comic sales have really increased over the years, and people are buying monthly comics again in a way that they weren't. Graphic novels, of course, and memoirs are all the rage. There are a lot of comics in the world these days, and I think that does have something to do with internet culture, digital culture. A web page is text and image. Comics is a vexed word because it doesn't really describe very well what the things are. They're not all funny. They used to be funny, they're not funny now. But no term that's come along since has done any better a job at encompassing this really diverse hybrid medium. It combines word and text, except when it doesn't. But you have wordless comics, you even have imageless comics that play with that idea. They're drawn rather simply, they're very symbolic, they're not realist, and then at the same time, words take on a pictorial dimension. But comics can be comic strips, they can be comic books, they can be mega series, they can be fiction, they can be nonfiction, they can be all kinds of things. It's a really flexible term. Hellboy is a little demon that the Nazis accidentally summoned into being when they were trying to summon something else. And he manifested to a group of Allied soldiers, one of whom dubbed him Hellboy. Although he's a demon and although he has this destiny to bring about the end of everything we know and hold dear on Earth, he resists this destiny. Mike Mignola, who does the comic, doesn't use some of the things that a normal comic artist or a regular superhero comic, let's say, would use to indicate motion. There are no motion lines. There's no motion blur. There's not a real suggestion of a deep space. And these are things that other comic artists do, often because they're imitating what film does. But Mignola was really presenting a page of sort of meticulously composed panels that were really strikingly quiet and still. And so that stillness directed me or got me thinking about the act of reading. The intimate, quiet act of reading, and that reading Hellboy, despite what the stories are about, is a quiet, intimate experience. You can look at a Mignola page and see what it's depicting. You can see that it's Hellboy fighting a cyborg gorilla and they're doing this and that. But you can also see this play of flat masses of color played off against each other and this meticulous balance of panels, not just across a page or upon a page, but across two pages. So that when you're holding it, you're really having this, I think, deeply aesthetic experience, whether you're aware of it or not, whether you think you're in it for the slug in the cyborg gorilla or not. I think there's something going on aesthetically in the book that is sophisticated and that is unique to the medium of comics. My background in film studies prepared me in ways you wouldn't expect. I mean, there are people who are interested, especially now, in the convergence of different media and the convergence of film and comics. All these comic book movies coming out, right, demonstrates that they have a lot in common. But actually, as someone who's not all that crazy about the superhero film genre, but who loves superhero comics, the more films are adapting comics, the more it becomes apparent to me that these are very different media, even though they're both about representing movement. I just became more and more interested in the ways in which these were divergent media, and the more that things seemed to converge, the more convinced I became that there was something in this moment of comic book movies that made it imperative to sort of separate these and demonstrate that they're each wonderful in their way, but they're wonderful in different ways. I think that the Academy is filled with work that is self-evidently important, weighty topics being dealt with by phenomenal scholars who are pushing against the assumptions of our culture, who are questioning its precepts. And these are evidently important things to think about. But for me, an aesthetic encounter is something meaningful, deeply pleasurable, and really provocative. And I just feel like I want to try to respect that pleasurable experience, to pay it attention, to highlight it, to try to indicate where that pleasure comes from. If you look at my work, I'm not only writing about Hellboy, but I teach courses on the Hollywood musical, I do cartoons, I do all of this. And it seems that I am really drawn to things that are considered less than deeply serious, and they're lightweight, and I want to find a way to respect their lightness, to engage with their lightness and explicate it in a way that never weighs them down, but which continues to sort of respect what they are, be it a Fred Astaire dance sequence or a page of a Hellboy comic or a Bugs Bunny cartoon. My work doesn't confront massive issues, it engages with small pleasures, but I think that's a very important part of what I'd want to bring to the Academy, both to my colleagues and to my students, that I want to model the fact that you can find something to say, legitimate, interesting, grounded, something to say about one's own engagement, one's own pleasures in the world.